Hello and welcome to GLC Law and Lore,
A legal education gives you a very structured way of thinking.
but rather a very special guest. He is the director of the blockbuster film Kesari 2 and a writer of Bandish Bandits, Mr. Karan Singh Tyagii.
I realized pretty early on that if you want to become a director in Bollywood, there are two ways you can go about that.
When you left your secure legal career to pursue your passion for storytelling, that was a bold move.
We adapted the courtroom trial in a manner that the whole country could understand.
If your life was a movie, what would you call it?
From Manhattan to Marda.
Hello and welcome to GLC Law and Lore, a podcast where we sit with legal luminaries from the prestigious government law college and shine a light on their journeys, getting to know more about them as people beyond the bells and gowns. Our today's episode is quite unique. We're not sitting with a senior advocate or a partner from a law firm, but rather a very special guest. He is the director of the blockbuster film Kesari 2 and a writer of Bandish Bandits, Mr. Karan Singh Tyagii. What many people might not know about him is that his journey extends far beyond the big screen. After graduating from the government law college, he earned his LLM from Harvard, cleared the New York bar exam, and worked at top law firms both in New York and in Paris. But his journey didn't stop there. He left his successful legal career to pursue his passion for storytelling. And today, his journey is as cinematic and compelling as the stories that he tells. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today, Karan. Welcome.
Hi, Jinay. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm so happy to be here.
Let's start from the beginning. Can you tell us a bit about your journey? How did you decide to choose law? And how was your time at GLC?
So, how did I decide to choose law? Um, so, my father was in the CBI and he was the chief investigating officer of the 93 Bombay blast case. And so the Bombay blast trial went on for more than 10 years.
Right.
And there was a Tata court that was set up. And my father used to go there every day. And he used to come back home, and conversations around the dinner table used to revolve around law. And I found that very exciting, very fascinating. And that was a big reason. My father was a big reason as to why I decided to study law. Coming back to GLC, I look back upon my time at GLC with a lot of joy and with a lot of fun. It's I have a lot of fond memories of my time at GLC. I joined GLC in 2004. I enrolled for the 5-year course.
Hmm.
I don't know what the culture is at GLC right now, but back in the day the culture was very interesting. I spent zero time in classes, but I still spent a lot of time in college.
Right.
So that was kind of unique. I realized very early on that the key in GLC is that you have to make yourself aware of things on your own. So I relied a lot on my seniors to understand what co-curricular and what extracurricular activities to get engaged in. And I joined the Moot Court Association in my first year,
Okay.
which was pretty fascinating. We organized the DM Harish Moot Court competition. I remember that fondly. I was a part of the legal aid clinic. We went to Arthur Road Jail. I remember visiting Arthur Road Jail in my first year of GLC, and we wrote bail applications for under trial prisoners. And and just college was a very different vibe. I remember those days of preparing for moot court competitions, submitting your memorials. That was a different feeling, a different kick. Uh, and and just I think what GLC gave me now, looking back in retrospect, is a lot of friends, people that I'm in touch with even now, and also just the ability to understand people, understand different kinds of people,
Right.
and a lot of other skill sets, because to get anything done in GLC you had to negotiate your way around. I one other thing, I so my friend and I, we started the first basketball team in GLC.
Oh,
And you know how GLC is in dealing with, like, people, the staff, and getting anything started.
right.
It was a crazy experience, because somebody had told us that if you qualify for the quarterfinals of an intercollegiate competition,
Hmm.
you'll be awarded 10 more marks. So that is why we started the first basketball team. And the feat of getting 10 extra marks is something that we achieved in our final year. So I remember that. It was a great time.
There was quite an incentive.
Yeah.
After that, you went on to do your LLM from Harvard. Was studying abroad always on your radar or something that conceptualized later on as you were pursuing your time at GLC? And how did that experience at Harvard differ from the legal education back in India?
So I got to know about Harvard and the Harvard Law School LLM program in my second year of GLC. And a friend told me about it. And he had participated in the Model United Nations that take place at Harvard.
Right.
And I remember sitting in the library of GLC and he was describing Harvard to me. He was describing that place, and it was magical. I I was like, I really want to do everything to get in. And from that point onwards, I started working on my resume. Uh, I did a couple of internships. Worked at AZB and Partners as an intern. Did clerkships at the Supreme Court, at the Bombay High Court, and wrote a lot of academic articles, all with the purpose of getting into Harvard. That was the dream. That was the dream. So I fully pursued that dream, and I was very lucky and was on top of the world when I got that acceptance letter in my email. And my time at Harvard was just magical, and I'll tell you why. It it didn't give me any tangible skill set or any tangible gain. Harvard gave me a lot of intangible things. In fact, I feel I would not have gotten the courage to pursue a career in filmmaking had it not been for my time at Harvard. Because ironically, Harvard gave me the time, the space to be alone, to think what I want out of life. It gave me the courage to face anything. It gave me the ability to just do whatever I wanted to do. I met so many people from across the world and just understood very unique perspectives about life. And Harvard just gives you the courage and it gives you the ability to argue. And filmmaking is nothing but communicating your vision.
Right.
And you asked me about how the education is different from Bombay
Right.
and Harvard. It is very different. There was a professor. His name is Noah Feldman. He taught me First Amendment, and he used to employ something called the Socratic method of teaching, where he used to enter a classroom, pick on any student, pick on one student. He had a chart with our names, and he would just call out any person's name, and the whole lecture would be just him grilling that one student in front of the entire class. So think of it like a cross examination.
Right.
You're being subject to the most intensive cross examination in front of your peers, and you have to hold your ground. So an experience like that trains you for anything.
Right.
And then just people had a very professors had a very different way of 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 teaching. Something which I fondly remember is my corporations professor. His name is Guhan Subramanian. He showed us a scene from this movie Wall Street. So there's this famous Gordon Gekko speech that greed is good.
Right.
So he wanted to explain to us the difference between board of directors, them exerting control on a company, and shareholder value. So he just showed us a scene from a film. I still remember that. And as I was telling you, I just pursued a lot of different things. I remember I did a seminar on Japanese movies. So somewhere it was that experience which enabled me to take this leap. And yeah, I'm very thankful to Harvard, very thankful to GLC.
So it was particularly that visual style of learning with that in-person experience that you get in the classroom.
So visual style of learning was just one professor, but as I'm telling you, it's something in the air there. It's just that you meet so many people. It just gives you a perspective on life. It just gives you a perspective on life. It gives you, as I said, the ability to communicate, and that is what I think is key in anything and everything in life.
So after that, you worked at a few law firms in New York and Paris, and then finally came the turning point around 2016 when you left your secure legal career to pursue your passion for storytelling. That was a bold move. What led to this decision? Did you ever doubt yourself?
So, Jinay, what led to this decision is my love for movies. So I have grown up loving movies like nobody else. Like, watching movies was a religion in my household. My father used to take me for every movie that used to release Friday evening show. We used to watch every film. And when I was in GLC, in fact, I used to watch the same film, the morning show at Eros or Metro or somewhere in town, and then watch the same film again, second time with my parents in the evening. So watching movies has just been everything. So I've grown up loving movies. I have grown up understanding, watching, at and just it was just the love for movies which pulled me into this field. I also was from a middle class. I also still come from a middle class background where education is given top priority, which is why I went to GLC. Then I did my masters. After masters, one thing led to another. I started working in a law firm in Paris. From there, I got hired to work in a New York law firm. So life was very comfortable. One thing led to another. But there came a turning point in my life when I realized that this is comfortable, this is great. But what about that love? What about the fact that what really gives me joy and what really used to give me joy was sneaking out of the office and watching a movie.
Hmm.
What really gave me joy was the Saturday. I started waiting for the weekend. I started waiting for Saturday and Sunday. Going into the office
Hmm.
and working on documents, that was not giving me joy. So that is where I decided that I'll take a sabbatical. I told my New York law firm partner, who was in fact very supportive, very supportive, and I came back to India. I came back to India, and first it was because obviously it was a big move. So there was a time when I was still contemplating how to go about, and I was lucky that I knew Vishal Bhardwaj.
Okay.
So Vishal Bhardwaj is one of my heroes. I knew him as in I had a familial connection with him, and he gave me the opportunity to assist him on his movie Rangoon, which he was making. So
Hmm.
I was a clapper boy on Rangoon. I used to give
Okay.
the clap. That's where I started. But once I was here, I just didn't leave back, and just one thing kept leading to another. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that I had a mentor like Vishal Bhardwaj. I was grateful that I had a very, very solid family to back me. I met my wife. Her name is Anusha Jagdish. She's still a lawyer. She's a
Hmm.
partner at AZB.
Right.
She does litigation. I met her when I was in New York, and she supported me. My parents supported me completely because they knew my love for movies. And and yeah, so it was the love for movies, the support from family, the fact that I was lucky to know people here, and it's that it's
So, like you said that you hail from a middle class background. So, how did that conversation go when you finally decided that I want to take a sabbatical? How did that conversation go at home?
so. In fact, Jinay, the conversation was pretty easy because my parents knew my love for movies. My parents knew that this is what he wants to do, and they've been very supportive. They've been very supportive from a young age, and also at that time I also had like a 4-year career in law firm. So so it was a very calculated move, a
Right.
calculated, it was something that I wanted to try. So in fact, I got complete support from them. I got complete support from my wife, and it's just that we don't realize that that you need a village. You need people to support you.
Right.
And I've been lucky.
So after that, you recently made your directorial debut with Kesari 2, and you also co-wrote the film. So how was that process like? I mean, we imagine writing scripts must have been quite a shift from drafting legal documents and opinions.
Yeah. So I realized pretty early on that if you want to become a director in Bollywood, there are two ways you can go about that. One is, if you assist a director, you continue assisting him for film after film,
Hmm.
and then kind of, the director looks at you and tells you that, okay, here's my next film, why don't you direct it? Or the second way to do it is that you start writing your own material, and you start pitching yourself as somebody who has a vision and who wants to direct a particular film. So I decided to choose the second approach, where I started writing
Hmm.
a script. And I was again very lucky to meet Amritpal Singh Bindra. So he is the founder of this production company, Leo Media Collective.
Okay.
So Leo Media Collective was started by Amrit and Anand Tiwari, and I met them through a common friend. And they are young people. They supported my vision. They supported my idea, and yeah. So I co-wrote my first script with Amrit,
Hmm.
and another friend of mine. His name is Mohit Kilam. So we co-wrote the script together. That film didn't happen for a particular reason,
Oh.
but then a friend of mine suggested this book, A Case That Shook the Empire,
Hmm.
and I read it and I was riveted. So I remember during COVID, I started writing this with Amrit, and then Amrit took me to Dharma Productions, which is where we narrated our script to Karan Johar. He liked it, and then, as has been a recurring theme in my life, one thing led to another, and then now we have just released a film,
Right.
Casey Chapter 2.
So that's what I wanted to talk about next. That on your directorial debut itself, you got to work with arguably the biggest production house in the country, and you were surrounded by the biggest artists in that film. That must have been surreal, but it also did come did it also come with a sense of internal pressure or expectation of being a debutant director in a room full of experienced artists? So how did you manage that pressure while staying true to your creative calling?
So if I'm being completely honest, yes, there was a lot of pressure. There was the pressure to deliver. It was my first film. I had not even directed a short film before that. So there was a lot of pressure. But I feel the way to deal with pressure is that you be so thorough, you be so meticulous in your work, that you kind of limit the chances of failure. So I put in a lot of work in the script first, and so we wrote the script over a period of 2 years, and we met a lot of people. I we engaged an expert who knew Punjab colonial history. So we engaged an expert, and then we read a lot of books around Jallianwala Bagh. So we just didn't limit ourselves to Case That Shook the Empire. So we read a lot of books. So our understanding was very exhaustive. We just knew each and every beat, and we knew the script in and out. So first was that, getting, knowing your material, knowing the script. It's, if you can compare it, it's like knowing your brief. You know your brief, like, thoroughly.
Right.
The second thing was about the technical aspects of making a film. So there again, I was blessed to work with a great cinematographer. His name is Debojit Ray,
Hmm.
and the two of us spent a lot of time in analyzing the script and in doing a short breakdowns, which so when we reached the set, we knew what we wanted to do. So that is the only way to deal with pressure. The way to deal with pressure is be so meticulous, so thorough, and do your job so well that there will be pressure, but you leave very, very little room for failure.
Right. Now, in law, success is defined by the final verdict.
Yeah.
And in the same way, in films, it is defined by critics, reviews, and the box office collection.
Yeah.
So, when Kesari 2 released, were you anxiously checking these reviews and numbers, or did you feel confident in what you had created?
So it differs from person to person. I am a very anxious human being. So I was very anxious. I was checking. I've read each and every review. I have I have read each and every comment on every YouTube unit. I was constantly checking Twitter, checking Instagram, checking Book My Show to see whether enough people, are booking tickets, checking box office metrics. So that is who I am. I am a very anxious person. And I, in retrospect, I feel that's the wrong thing to do. You have to enjoy the fact, and I wish I had the foresight to just be happy that I have released a film from where I come from,
Right.
from the legal background. Even having released a film in itself is a huge thing,
Exactly.
huge thing, right? And it's the journey that's important and not the destination. But I thought the opposite, that it's the destination and not the journey. And yeah, but that is all in retrospect. To answer your question, I was very anxious, and I hope that for my second movie, I just enjoy the release process more. I just
Right.
enjoy everything more. But I don't know if I'll be able to change my anxious side.
And through these conversations, we get to know that, even people at the top, the directors, they too get anxious and they too get meticulous about, what.
Yeah, yeah. Don't confuse. I'm not at the top. It's my first. It's my first film. It's
Right.
my first film, and I'm, as you know, it differs from person to person. As I'm saying, even for my second film, third film, my fear is that I'll remain anxious.
Right. So, has your legal training and the principles and practices that you learned in your legal career helped you in the creative process? Like any skill or practice that you picked up during the time and you still implement as a director?
So, so as I was saying, a legal education gives you a very structured way of thinking. It gives you a very structured way of approaching any particular problem. It gives you the skills of man management. So more than any technical know-how or any technical or any knowledge that I can quantify,
Right.
it's these skills that I learned because of my legal career, which gave me the ability to argue, which gave me the ability to communicate my vision. Because filmmaking, if you it boils down at the end of the day to having a vision and then communicating the vision. And you acquire the vision by writing your script, by being very thorough, by knowing things like inside out. Uh, and then you have to communicate that same vision to different head of departments.
Right.
You have to communicate your vision to the DOP, to the production designer, to the costume designer, to even actors on set. So I feel that's where my legal education really helped me. It really helped me because you analyze a problem in a very structured way and then you communicate the answer to that. And yes, and also one more thing, because in my legal career, I wrote a lot of articles. I wrote a lot of law review pieces. I tried. You learn a specific way of writing. You learn a specific way of creating a narrative arc. You learn a way of telling a story. Because at the end of the day, when one argues in a moot court or in a real court, you are as they say, the best litigators are the people who tell the best stories.
Right.
So that is something, again, you gain through legal education. The ability to argue, the ability to tell a story, to create a narrative arc in a way that your point lands. So that's where my legal education has helped me.
Now, coming to our last and the main question, a lot of people dream of switching paths, but few actually take the plunge, especially when it comes to unconventional careers like filmmaking. What would you say to someone who's torn between a stable career and a creative calling?
So firstly, I have to say, if I can do it, anyone can do it. It's you know it's tough, but you have to put yourself out there. But to kind of analyze it in a different way, So there's a dialogue in my film which says Pargat ek Shatir Krantikari tha. So now these words Shatir Krantikari have been written by my dialogue writer, Sumit Saxena. And so the word Shatir Krantikari is very important because what it means it's a meticulous rebel.
Right.
So when you are in a stable career and you want to rebel and you want to pursue a creative calling, you have to be very meticulous. You have to be very planned. You need to know the pros and cons.
Right.
You need to start by taking small steps. You need to test the waters. You need to have you need to should have the ability to work more hours than any normal human being, because that's what it entails. It would be very easy for me to say, no, choose your own path and
Right.
choose your own calling and become an artist. But no, people who are in stable careers and who do not have the privilege or the luxury to take a huge risk, you have to be meticulous. You need to know what you want to do. You need to understand that properly. And then you need to have a plan. You need to have a plan for every month. You need to have a plan for 6 months. Maybe in 6 months you change the plan. You need to have a plan B. So you have to be very meticulous. You have to and you need to know much more than the other person.
Right.
So as they say, in order to do something extraordinary, you do it by the extra that you put in.
This was quite insightful to hear compared to the general motivational speakers that you hear on Instagram saying, quit your 9 to 5, take a leap of faith, and things will
Not
turn
at
out
all.
on its own.
According to me, it's my personal opinion. You have to be a meticulous rebel.
Right. Now, moving on to the second segment, we would like to discuss certain contemporary legal issues, and I would like to know your take on them.
I might not give a good take, but I'm not stopped reading anything about law or case laws or legal books. But yeah, you can still ask.
I mean, the whole movie was about a case law.
But something that happened in the 1920s.
Right. So, in recent years, we have seen a surge in films that portray historical events and the lives of public figures. Many such films often spark legal battles over defamation or breach of privacy. Given your unique background, both as a lawyer and a filmmaker, how do you believe filmmakers should navigate the fine line between creative expression and legal responsibility?
Very interesting question. Uh, I'll give you my personal take. And I've said this before as well. One of my screenwriting heroes, his name is Aaron Sorkin. He he's made a lot of movies on real life people and real life incidents. And he believes, and something that I fully endorse, is that movies on real life people and real life events need not be photographs. They need not be, a photograph, but they can be paintings.
Hmm.
So, photograph is an accurate, a more documentary kind of depiction, whereas a painting gives you more freedom and more latitude to create drama, to to bring your own unique take. I fully agree. I fully agree with that. Uh, as far as Case 3 Chapter 2 is concerned, and I'll take that example and answer this question. We were adapting a book.
Hmm.
We were adapting a courtroom trial that went on for several months into a 2-hour narrative. And when you do that, you have to compress timelines. You have to
Right.
compress characters, and that is what we did. But in order to ensure that we were not defamatory, we had Shankaran Nair's family support,
Oh,
because the book was written by Shankaran Nair's great grandson. His name is Raghu Palat and his wife Pushpa Palat. So they wrote the book. They read a first draft of the script. They saw the first cut of the film. So all changes that we were making to the real events, we had the family support.
hmm.
And again, it depends on the intent of the filmmaker. So for me, it was very important that we were not deviating from the factual realities of Jallianwala Bagh.
Right.
So everything that you see about Jallianwala Bagh in the film, and the film makes an argument that the massacre was a pre-planned conspiracy. So all the events around that, Jallianwala Bagh, we try to stay as accurate as what's been written in books. So
Hmm.
that's what we did. We stayed true to Shankar Nair's spirit and his soul. But having said that, we took certain creative liberties where, as I was mentioning, we adapted the courtroom trial in a manner that the whole country could understand.
Right.
So, because for me it was very important that the whole country knows about Shankar Nair. So we were making the film to honor the lives of people who died at Jallianwala Bagh and to honor Shankar Nair's spirit.
Hmm.
So that was the intent. Uh, so we adapted a defamation suit into a genocide trial, and I'll tell you why we did that. Because a defamation suit and a genocide trial eventually both come down to, as you know, to counter defamation, you need to prove the truth.
Right.
You need to prove what really happened. And that's the same thing when you're prosecuting General Dyer, or when you're prosecuting the British Crown.
Hmm.
You got to prove, did they really do it? What really happened?
Hmm.
So the the foundation was the same, which is why we adapted the defamation trial into a genocide case. And we wanted to use the word genocide because we think, and this is we think retrospectively, that what happened at Jallianwala Bagh was a genocide, was a premeditated attack to exterminate a specific group of people.
Hmm.
So we wanted to have that understanding. We wanted to have that term to be clear, and we wanted to be unequivocal that it was a genocide. So those were the liberties that we were taking. Uh, Maybe some people might say that we took a few more liberties, but as I'm telling you, this was my intent,
Right.
and this was where we were coming from. So yes, you have to be responsible. There is a thin line, but the way to go about this is that if you are documenting the life of a real life person,
Hmm.
you should have the permission of the family, and again, your intent behind why you're making a change
Hmm.
from what really happened needs to be pure, and needs to have a larger goal, which in our case was that everyone in this country should know about Shankar Nair.
Right. Now, moving on to the second question. As a filmmaker, how do you view the ongoing conversation around censorship in India? Many filmmakers have openly criticized the CBFC for imposing heavy cuts or blocking content with certain themes. Do you find it limiting, or do you see it as a space where one can still negotiate boundaries and innovate through storytelling?
So it goes without saying that definitely it is limiting for a filmmaker, because I feel one should be able to express art
Right.
without any pre censorship running in your mind. So it is limiting, but I'm also aware that we do not live in a utopian society,
Hmm.
and we have to negotiate. We have to understand what are the ways, what are the means in which you can in which you we need to understand what are the ways, what are the means in which you still get your point across. So there's this filmmaker, Jafar Panahi,
Hmm.
who is an Iranian filmmaker, and he suffered censorship all his life. But throughout his career, he's devised ingenious ways to still make movies.
Hmm.
Uh, so there was a time when he was placed under house arrest. He used that time to make a film about his house arrest, and I think it's called "This Is Not a Film." That movie is called "This Is Not a Film."
Okay.
He was a taxi driver where he documented his interactions with other people, and he released that as a film.
Hmm.
So he's always used ingenious ways to circumvent censorship. So there are examples of people who face worse discrimination and worse censorship than in this country, but they still try, they still push, they still negotiate to get their point across. So we can only take lessons from these filmmakers,
Right.
and we need to always keep pushing the boundary. We cannot resort to saying that, oh, there is censorship and we can't do anything, and so yes, it is not ideal,
Hmm.
but we need to find different ways and different means to still express our point of view through art.
Right. So, the main point is to accept the situation of how it is, that we do not live in an utopian world, and navigate around your ways of.
So I feel it is very tough to accept the situation. So what is happening around us is not ideal,
Right.
but that should not stop you from still expressing yourself.
Right. Now we'll be shifting some gears and moving on to the rapid fire round.
Oh, I'm very worried about this.
The idea is to just say the first word that comes from the top of your head.
Oh God. We need some censorship.
There's no censorship here.
We need CBFC. Where are you?
One legal drama that you wish you had directed.
Damini.
Okay. If you had to cross-examine a Bollywood character in court, who would it be?
Shah Rukh Khan, Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na. I wanted to understand like why is he what is happening in his life.
What is more stressful? A partner's review on a draft or a producer's feedback on a script?
Producer's feedback on a script.
Obviously. Which is your guilty pleasure Bollywood film that you secretly love?
Guilty pleasure Bollywood film that I love No Entry.
One Bollywood actor that you think would make a great lawyer?
Akshay Kumar.
Right.
He is.
Yeah.
I keep telling him that he's actually an FBI officer.
Oh.
You can't survive his cross examination. He is very sharp.
One director, Indian or international, that you would drop everything to assist? No.
David Simon.
Okay.
So David Simon has created Wire, one of the greatest shows that I think has been made. Yeah.
Okay. If you had to defend a Bollywood villain in court, who would it be?
Gabbar Singh. So it will be indefensible. How does one defend Gabbar Singh? Or I can also defend Shah Rukh Khan from Bazigar. Sorry, I'm saying very old references and I'm just revealing my age. But
if Suits was remade in Bollywood, whom would you think would play Harvey?
Shah Rukh Khan.
Right.
Shah Rukh Khan plays Harvey Specter. And the question is, who will play Mike Ross? Who's a young actor? I think Shah Rukh Khan and Aryan Khan.
Makes sense. Which Indian film handled law or courtroom drama the most accurately in your opinion?
I would like to say Kesari Chapter 2.
You can.
No, but also Pink,
Right.
I think was good. Pink was good. Which other Indian courtroom? I also like Jolly LB. I know it's funny, but they're going for something different.
Right.
But yeah.
If your life was a movie, what would you call it?
From Manhattan to Mahada. Because, my first office that when I came back to Bombay was in Mahada in Andheri. So everyone used to tell me that, in fact, a friend of mine told me that if you ever write a memoir, you can call it Manhattan to Mahada. Yeah.
Nice. Which is the most cinematic moment of your life?
The most cinematic moment of my life.
Yeah, like the most dramatic or...
Oh, I think it was watching my movie in a theater filled with an audience. Because you dream I myself have been an audience all my life. I watched a movie and there in a theater, you're sitting in a theater, they don't know that you are the director and they are reacting to your film. They are laughing, they're clapping at certain scenes. At certain scenes, they are not reacting and you're feeling like, why the hell are they not reacting? Some person on the phone. So left to me, I would ban this, this practice of people ordering their food and people coming inside with burgers. And I was going to lock the theater so that nobody can enter from outside. So yeah, I think the most cinematic thing was just watching your own film with strangers.
Right. Thank you, Karan. That was indeed rapid. This brings us to the end of our episode.
Thank you.
But before we end, do you have any advice for young lawyers or law aspirants out there?
Advice to young lawyers and young aspirants would just be if you have already thought of studying law, I think you're already on the right track because I think a legal education gives you so much more in life. So just keep at it,
Right.
and come to GLC and be shocked that there are no lectures or professors or classes, but you will learn so much about life.
Right. Thank you so much, Karan. I hope this episode was as interesting for you as it was insightful for us.
It was great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
This is Jinay Jain from GLC Law and Lore signing off.